So I can't believe we are at the last book of Genesis. We are going to be moving on to Exodus. So as I mentioned before, next Friday, we're going to take a break, and then we'll resume on the Friday after that. And we're going to do the Genesis whole overview. It'll probably be a long video. And then we will start Exodus the following Friday. So next Friday, there'll be no video as far as this series go. The following Friday, we'll do the whole recap. I just want to give people a chance to catch up, or, if they wanted to do their own notes with recap and we can compare and contrast. I'm going to try to have live chat on for that video as well. So I'm pretty excited. So Genesis 50. So Joseph's dad, he died. Jacob dies in Genesis 49, really sad. And in Genesis 50, it's opened with Joseph, being really sad that his dad died. And it said in verses 1 through 3 that Joseph embalmed his father, and the Egyptians wept over him for 70 days. And I thought this was so significant because Jacob wasn't even from Egypt. Jacob was from Canaan, remember? And he didn't live in Egypt. He came to the Egyptians as a foreigner. And it just goes to show how impactful Jacob and Joseph were in Egypt, the fact that they would mourn and weep over him for 70 days. And when you read the text, it sounds like they really had a lot of respect for Jacob, and they really missed him when he passed. So that shows, that speaks volumes. Verses 4 through 6, Joseph respectfully requests Pharaoh's permission to bury his father. And Joseph, again, he just is an example of godly wisdom, and he was second in command to Pharaoh, but he was very respectful, and he requested, can I please? I'm sure he had tons of duties. And of course, Pharaoh says yes. Verses 7 through 9, Jacob was buried by many Egyptians, it said. It was a large crowd of people that went to bury Jacob. And again, they are foreigners in this land, and yet they're treated, with such respect. And it said Jacob mourned for 7 days, and the Egyptians held a ceremony of mourning. And I heard something about, so I was listening to a sermon one time. I can't remember who, I can't remember where, it was a while ago. But the people, the person, whoever, it wasn't about Jacob. And this should say Joseph. Joseph mourned for 7 days, I'm sorry. The people, the person, whoever was preaching on, the person was mourning for a certain amount of time. And they said, I think there's a lot of wisdom in having a period of mourning. When you lose someone, it can really throw a lot of things off, especially depending on who it is. And I've read your stories, and some of you have gone through such incredible battles of loss. And I really, truly, I pray for you. And you guys are just amazing. The things that you've gone through, and yet you're still taking a stand and believing in faith for God, I think it's incredible. However, I think it's substantial that there's a period for mourning. And then after mourning, I think there's a period where you kind of have to just move on from that. And I don't want to sound insensitive. You could certainly miss the person. Of course, love them, remember their memory, but missing someone and mourning over them to the point where, it's impacting your health. And I don't mean at first, of course, at first you're going to mourn them. But I mean, 10, 15 years or some time down the road, you're still mourning that person. Or if it's not a person, maybe you're mourning the loss of like a job or a situation. I think it's substantial that in the Bible over and over, they say that there's people who mourn for a certain amount of time. And then even though, of course, Joseph is still sad, he goes on to be, not happy that his dad passed, but it says that he mourned for 7 days. And so I just wanted to mention that. Again, I don't want to sound insensitive, but I did hear that in a sermon one time, and I thought it was really substantial, and it stuck with me. So I thought I would share. Verses 12 through 14, Jacob's son buried him right where he asked, which is awesome. They buried him in Canaan, in the cave in the field of, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, near Mamre. And then they returned to Egypt. So, and so interesting, verse 15. After all those years and everything they've gone through with Joseph, they really were afraid. They were afraid. And I think that's incredible. But wait, I just thought of something before I get there. Sorry, I feel like I'm all over the place. Before I get there, one thing about Joseph's life that I thought was so cool, Jacob's life, is if you think about where he was, let's say, I don't know, maybe, I don't know how long they were in Egypt. I think. So in Genesis 49, it says that, I'm sorry, in Genesis 47, it said that Jacob lived in Egypt for 17 years. Okay, so let's picture Jacob 18 years ago. He probably would have never thought that he would see his son again. He probably would have never thought that, you know, he would be disrespected and have this grand, you know, funeral and people mourning him and remembering his life like this. I bet Jacob would have never thought that this would all happen, but it did. So, you know, if you're in a situation where you're feeling like it's impossible, how is God going to do this for me? Just keep holding on to faith, because you never know. Your day could be any day. And you could be looking back, you know, 10 years from now thinking, wow, I can't believe I was in this situation 10 years ago. And now here I am today. Believe me, I've been there. I've certainly been there. And maybe you're there too. So hopefully Jacob's life is a testimony and some encouragement for you if you're waiting on something from God. Anyways, moving back to my original point, verse 15. After all those years, Joseph's brothers still feared Joseph's revenge on them. They still were afraid. And I feel like they made up a story and they said, you know, Jacob said, you know, forgive your brothers. I don't think Jacob said that. And I think Joseph knew that, because if Jacob wanted Joseph to forgive his brothers, or if he had any sort of feeling like that, I feel like Jacob would have probably just spoken to Joseph himself rather than telling his brothers or telling someone else to tell Joseph. You know what I mean? I don't know. Jacob had that intimate moment with Joseph and Joseph's sons, don't forget. And I'm sure if Jacob was feeling like Joseph, you know, should have forgiven his brothers or what have you, he would have brought it up at some point. So I'm not really sure. I don't think that was true. And I said, did Jacob really say those words? And then Joseph wept when he heard that, because maybe he was thinking, I can't believe, you know, why are we going back to that? I don't know. I would have felt pretty sad too. And, you know, Joseph pretty much said, you know, don't worry, like, I'm not going to do anything to you. And this is my favorite, one of my favorite scriptures. He said, you meant to harm me, but God intended it for good, for the saving of many lives. And Joseph is so wise and spiritually mature. He didn't seek revenge on his brothers. He didn't want to make their lives, you know, horrible now that their father's dead. He really just wanted to bless them. And I think we can all learn a lesson from that. Sometimes I get hurt and I just don't want to bless someone. You know, I feel like it's a natural reaction. You know, have you ever been there where someone has done something to you and you just, you know, you're over it. You just don't want to ever bless them again. Well, Joseph's been there too. His brothers threw him into slavery. They wanted him to die. But when they meant harm, God intended it for good. So that's an incredible story right there within itself. And then verse 22, Joseph lived a long life, it said, and he proclaimed to his brothers that he would bring them, that God will bring them, sorry, not him, that God will bring them to the promised land. And he was buried in a coffin in Egypt. And this is really cool, because if you're familiar with the Bible, you know that the Israelites were in Egypt and God had promised to bring them out of Egypt. They were in slavery and bondage. And now that I've studied the whole book of Genesis in depth, like I have, I now understand how the Israelites even got to Egypt. I never knew how they got to Egypt. I didn't realize it was because Joseph was in Egypt, and so Jacob and his brothers all moved, you know, and remember, his brothers represent the 12 tribes, and that's how the Israelites ended up in Egypt, which is so crazy. I never knew that, and I've really had a much deeper appreciation for this Study the Whole Bible with Me series, and I can't wait to do. I'm working on the overview, and it's really exciting, but yeah, I don't know. Now we know how they got to Egypt, right? Am I the only one that didn't know that? But yeah, let me know what you learned from this chapter. Bittersweet. And we're moving on to Exodus. Remember, next week we have off. Week after that, we're going to do the overview. Week after that, we start with Exodus. And I plan to do it with all the chapters of the Bible. So thank you so much for watching this video and hanging on in there with me. Please subscribe, share this video, like it or dislike it if you didn't like it. It helps for others to find my videos in the YouTube algorithm. I post a new Bible study video every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I can't wait to study the Bible with you again. Bye.